What's up, everybody? This is Steve Wallace here, and welcome to Hal Analysis. This is a series where we analyze Hal King and talk about the different aspects that went into production and bringing it all together. Today, I'm super excited. I have with me the director of Hal King, Myron Davis, in the house. What's up, Myron?
How you doing, man?
I'm
Good to
good.
be
I'm good.
to be here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So one of the reasons why I was excited to work with you on this project, and most people know, some people might not know that, just know you from Hal King or other films, or for like One Last Prayer, is that you are a singer and a songwriter yourself, and have a history in R&B and soul music, making some of our favorite hits, songs that probably birthed our kids.
Right. When I got the record deal, got into music videos there, and just kind of saw a little bit more behind the scenes. So once I had the opportunity to buy a camera, it was what 2003 or four, where the 7D came out, Canon 7D, and everybody was making films that looked great with this depth of field. So I grabbed one of those bad boys and
Nice.
started making I made my first uh, published short film. It was always there, just layers.
Yeah. So let's get into Hal King. What is the scene that you wanted to get into?
Wow. So I think the scene that always sticks out in my mind is the Memphis Shack performance.
Nice.
Um, Number one, because again, I grew up in the 80s, and MASH was a big TV show at the time. We saw it every day. It was always on. So when I read the script and saw that there was that element there, man, I was elated. I was excited to jump into something like this, to try to make it come to life.
Thanks, cuz you get any correspondence yet?
Nothing, but I expect some very soon. Your father would never turn his back on us.
Says you.
It's true.
You tell them how they do.
I did.
So I'm gonna pause it there for a couple reasons. First reason, let's talk about this set, where it is, how we got it to look the way it looks. Because where's it supposed to be?
So,
It's supposed to be in Korea.
well, we are in the heart of Cleveland, filming this set inside a warehouse. I admit I was a little intimidated when I got the script and read through it, because I had never seen anything like it. And so trying to picture what, how it would feel, how it would look, trying to get that into my mind, I was intimidated. And then when I read and saw the scope of how many locations we have, a Jim, cinematographer, and I, we had a log sheet of all the locations, all the sets that we built. It was amazing. It was all of the cities that we filmed in. It's amazing. I'm gonna find it. But what was so cool is we had an art director, Rob Peck, who I had worked with several years prior on my stage play that we produced and presented at the Hannah Theater in Cleveland. So I knew that he was able to come through for me, but I wasn't sure what it was going to look like. I'm just throwing an idea out there. I mean, I had a vision for what it could look like. So we presented. I said, "Hey, man, can you give me a bivouac like mash? Build me a tent." He didn't even hesitate. I mean, he looked at it. He said, "Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I can do it." And it just so happened that a friend of our cinematographer,
Shout out to Tom.
oh yeah, Tom, had a studio space that was big enough that we could build this set inside. And so I want to say it took him about 3 days, and man, it turned out amazing. So it made it easy to film. It made it easy to set our camera down and shoot, because we were able to shoot 360 pretty much inside the tent.
Bandage says the bullet went right through. Doc says I'm all mended and good as new. I bet he did, but it looks to me like your arm is still torn.
Casting that you did on this, Steve, was amazing, and it was also amazing because all of these were pretty much your friends. You had relationships with most of these guys. Was there anybody you didn't know and you just reached out to?
Yeah, the Antonio I did not know initially, but I knew the guy right here with the who played Dubs. He was a friend of a friend, so it was sort of it's still a connection within like the indie music scene on New York.
Okay.
And interesting side note too, he is actually the son of and Tony McClendon, who played Leroy French. I didn't.
But did you know that they were related, or did he bring his son on, or did Antonio Jr. bring his father on, or how did it work? How did that happen?
So it was. I just was in need of more male voices, especially
Okay.
like lower male voices. I knew more a few more tenors than I did like baritones. I knew baritones in like the opera world, but
Yeah.
not really like R&B, So
Yeah.
I wanted more of like that accessible R&B soul sound. And
Yeah.
I asked my friend Monet Dunham, who helped out with casting, and I said, "Yo, Monet, who do you know?" And she knows everybody in New York. She just sent me like a list of people, and I checked out their videos and everything. And so I really liked what Antonio was doing, and I liked and like Tony was had a beautiful silky voice. So
Yeah.
yeah, Tyreek as well, because actually I had somebody else cast as Hal.
Right.
Remember, I won't mention the names and stuff, but and um, and then he was unavailable because he was on a tour. And I was like, okay, who am I going to get to fill this spot? I needed a specific certain type of energy, and so yeah. So I did not know Tyreek before this, but Darian and LaRob, Darian who plays Hotspur, and LaRob who played Stokes, they were both good friends of mine prior to this. So
That's cool. Now, how long before production did you have Hal? Like, how was it? Was it one of the like a last minute change? Was it something
it,
you had time to prep for?
it was a little last minute. I mean, meaning like maybe a month, maybe a month or so for Hal. Hotspur was a little bit of a shorter time because
Okay.
I think because we had somebody else for Hotspur, which we know about
Right.
that
Oh,
story too.
that's right. That's right.
So Darian had sung the demos for me like years before, and
Okay.
and I wanted a certain type of voice, like a higher tenor voice, but one that didn't, not one that sounded that maintained its gravitas, for anything, that had some depth to it still while still being high and like sounding like a first tenor, and
Yeah.
I just reached out to him. He was on a tour at the time when I reached out to him, like in Asia somewhere, and he was like, "Well, I'll be back. I'll be back in the States at the time." And I was like, "Yeah, cool. Go over your demos." And it was like a week or two before he had to, maybe 2 weeks. I won't make it that time. But anyway,
Wow. That's so cool, man. Because again, being on set, everyone was so excited and it fits so naturally. Like they worked together, and you would think that they had been. And I guess that's the
yeah,
beauty of filmmaking anyway, when you have people who are good at what they do. But I felt like on set, everybody knew each other because I came in. I had just met most of the cast before, but it did feel like the camaraderie was so rich.
yeah.
You working together, so it's pretty easy to direct.
Having some fun. Take a load off from this him and those guns. What you think's gonna happen when the battle is won?
I wouldn't be doing nothing but dancing at the Memphis Shack.
Got the best women's on the floor. And some on their back. What about when the battle's done?
Same thing that always happens. We compared to the smoke. White folks get all the claim. Nobody even asks our name.
Well, I know one thing, if I do go home, I ain't gonna miss not one round. Your company's alright and good, I guess, but my women's at the shack, well, you know the rest.
So I'm gonna pause there for a second because I wanted to talk about, because I know we talked a little bit about like music motifs and stuff like that when it comes to like writing operas and musicals to some degree as well. depending on the composer. But I really wanted to be really specific about that. I wanted this to be seen fully as an opera, but performed as if it was the culture of today, right? And so you'll do, 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 right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
the love motif, right? And
yeah.
so I sort of based the music on this quartet off of that, but like in sort of this like jazzy bluesy way. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So you'll see a lot of those like even in that last part we were listening to.
Yeah, yeah, I heard.
There's these falling chromaticisms. Wait, my papers get back. So underneath the piano is playing that, you know.
I can make it till my papers get back. If I get discharged, I'm out of this pack.
Lucky you.
Lucky me. You tried loading rifles with your arm in a sling.
I don't mean none of all that. I just mean it sure be nice to find my way back.
So, without a doubt, Steve, I have to say, man, this is a classic piece of Black art. Of course, our prayer is that everyone gets to see it and recognize it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the excitement and the realization of the grand picture of what we were actually doing. I mean, everybody's making movies. Everybody, you know, the beauty of right now is it's easy to make film, short film,
Mm-hmm.
but something on the scale is a little different because there's a classical beauty because of how you know, because of your approach, taking Shakespeare and making it modern, making it something for today's audience. The way you cast, particularly right now, where there can never be enough Black faces on camera. There's so much room for more. But being a part of that, I think they felt coming into the sets, especially when they walked onto the set and they didn't have to think about trying to make themselves feel like they were in Korea. They were in Korea. You know, they walked into the tent and you're there. So all of those things together become something that you bond on. So it was almost like they were experiencing the war together. They were experiencing the film together. And so when we had done our run throughs, I feel like the atmosphere that you and Robbie created with the team allowed these actors to recognize what we were a part of, and it made it so much better. I mean, you know, that was, again, like I said, I was anxious reading the script. I was anxious driving to the sets, like, okay, how you know? But once you get there and the team is there, we're excited. All I can think of, man, we're making a real movie. We are making history.
Yeah, seriously.
It was, you know, and this had that kind of impact. We knew what we were doing. The size of this venture, the number of people, the number of sets, we walked on, we're like, man, we are a part of this. And that helped. That helped every scene we were on. People felt like, I want to nail this. I want this to be right. And I could tell that when we said action, these guys wanted it to be right because they knew what they were a part of.
Yeah, and I think the ensemble nature definitely of this particular piece, it you know, artists push other artists, you know, and it doesn't always have to be. It doesn't always have to be super competitive and like bringing each other down.
Yeah,
Like, yo, he's going in right now. I gotta go in, you know. So just to be on that same level, and I know, you know what this too, being on stage or even like in plays and stuff, when you have an actor to bounce stuff off of, and you feeling like that authentic energy coming from them, you just want to be on that level too. You know what I mean? If you're an artist, if you see yourself as a great artist or aspiring to be so.
Did they record separately? Because this is a song with a lot of call and response.
Yep.
How did they record this?
It was actually, I was just going to tell you that they actually recorded separately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I I laid down all the references initially, um, and and then I sent it to all of them for them to study. You know what I mean? But when they came in, they just heard maybe like one or two of the other parts of maybe my references, and just kind of sat in there, and I just kind of guided them on how to sing it to get that, get that feel. Um,
Oh man. Now that's the one thing I regret is that I wasn't a part of that recording session because I would have loved to see how that transpired. Particularly because as a songwriter, trying to catch and a songwriter and an artist trying to get someone else's vision melodically, and there's some very very classic lines and notes
yeah,
that go in this music. It's not typical R&B, so some of the notes are surprises. I would have loved to see how you coached that in. Was it like, wait, what's that
yeah.
note again? You know,
That
no,
was
it's
that
you're
was
sharp.
always that was always the thing. Like always
Yeah,
through the whole process. I mean, even with the recitatives and stuff, the like
yes.
sung dialogue. Like I
Uh,
remember even somebody like Sophia who played Doll, who's the musical theater background and everything. When we were doing the recits the first time I showed them to her, she was like, "You want me to do what?" You know, and then there's some specific with the motifs. Like I try to state, I try to say I try to honor them the way they're written. So sometimes it'll put people in weird positions, or not weird, but
I know.
non-traditional positions vocally. You know what I mean? And there's sometimes we had to go back like 5, 6, 7, 12 times over just like
Yeah,
this one line because it's like I'm like you did it what you want me
right, right, right.
and so yeah, so a lot of that stuff was happening, but they all were great musicians, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that's part of the reason why I chose them too, like
yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, yeah,
Now, as far as I was going to ask, as far as the writing, you wrote this music. How long before before you recorded it?
I finished writing All of How King in 2014.
Oh wow, okay,
Yeah, and then we started filming in it was 2017. So
okay.
yeah, it
So
was
do
like
you have it written, notated and everything? Like, could you?
so I have yeah I'm able to do that definitely. I have like pieces of it notated, so I have a lot of it when I was writing it was in charts,
Okay,
like kind of more like a jazz chart,
yeah,
and then some of it I anything I actually wrote out. The only thing I really wrote out were the motifs, honestly, and I sort of built it like how we do as R&B producers do,
yeah,
or hip hop. Like I was just
yeah,
kind of layering lines, I just yeah, I would chart out like, okay, I want, this section, this is the 8 bars and it's doing this harmonic progression or whatever. I had it sort of like that. And then I would just go back over, like I'll lay the piano down first. And then I would think, okay, just hear in my ear, okay, I hear this playing this, violins are playing this line or whatever,
yeah.
trumpet playing that.
What would you say the How King theme is? So like Inception has the time piece that you think of. In your mind, is there a How King piece?
There's one motif that goes throughout the whole thing. So there's okay, so now I'm gonna get real music nerdy. This is for my music nerds out there that are in the opera
Yeah,
and stuff. So Richard Wagner was a racist German composer from the like late 1800s, early 1900s, but wrote some incredible work. He actually expanded opera for Germans in this concept called the Gesamtkunstwerk, which means the great work of art, basically. One of the things that he liked to do, as opposed to thinking of like the songs and operas as being separate, he would think of everything was connected, and instead of complete melodies, he would have these motifs. He called them light motifs, which were like really really short things, like the dee 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 doo dee doo, like that, and he would just weave those throughout the whole uh, opera, essentially, as opposed to being like, okay, this is a song, and like Act One would never stop for applause. It would be like Act One would start, and he would have all these leitmotifs, and it would be funny because the singers would actually not be singing anything that they may or may not be singing something really interesting at that time, because he wanted to equal the singer's voice with the voices in the orchestra, as if the singer was part of the orchestra. So I say that to say, in How King, I mean, using the motifs, like the main motif is the that's like
Okay, yeah.
that's the first thing we hear, and then we hear a lot of variations of it, like subtly throughout the whole thing. That's the one that weaves everything together. But I think, yeah, all in all, like the whole idea of it is it being the a Gesamtkunstwerk for today within like black culture. You know what I mean? Taking all those aspects and creating something that is, I don't know, like opera, but still can have feel relevant, you know, to right now. All right, so can we shout out Keith Benford here?
Oh man, absolutely.
Because he was a blessing on set, man. Like, how old was he when he did this? Was he 16, 17?
I want to say he was 16 or 17. He hadn't graduated yet, and he went to Cleveland School of the Arts. Shout out to Cleveland School of the Arts, man. They produce incredible talent.
Yeah.
I want to say there were several Cleveland CSA students on set, particularly when we go to the dance pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But Keith had been trained as an actor pretty much all through high school. And I called him, I think I introduced him to you when you told me you needed, I can't remember, you were telling me it was the poet. You wanted a poet, somebody who could sing. I was like, oh, I gotta get Keith on here. And so I introduced him, he auditioned and nailed it. He's a great singer, an incredible dancer. So he's a triple threat and a really good actor.
And he was a great energy on set too. And it was really cool, this dance that he does here, because we wanted, you know, to maintain this kind of mixture of classical, modern, and at the same time with as many aspects as we could. And so he's doing like this tap dance, his Bojangles, and he starts crip walking.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people picked it up or even were thinking about it, but it's like, I was like, that's perfect. That's perfect. Keep that. That's dope. That's dope. So yeah. So these different lines in Memphis Shack, you may notice that there's the repetition that comes in. The person that wrote this script, she had written this section as kind of more like prose, like quasi-rhyming screenplay. And there was, and I took this whole scene and moved stuff around and created a song structure out of it by taking, and then I laid that out first, and then I started setting the words to music, you know. So the whole Memphis Shack thing, because someone else mentioned, I think Dubs or somebody mentions it later in what she wrote, like one time, and I was like, oh, why don't we just use that as the hook? That's like really catchy. And that was our chorus. And then I just kind of organized everything around it. So at the end, when they're kind of popping in and saying their line, like what they want, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And shout to Darian on his line when he comes. I just need to show what it does to find my way. It sounds so great every time.
Now, did you sing that line too, or did you let him ad lib?
I sang it kind of like that, in that direction. And I let all the artists have their creative license to give their own flavor to it. So I wanted, yeah, you know, so how he did his little run.
Yeah, his inflections on it was beautiful, man.
Yeah, I know. That's him.
I love it.
It's almost like it's like that soprano trumpet on top, you know.
Right. Another thing though that's amazing on the cinematography level is the lighting. And even the lens choices, because when you look at this film, there is, it screams classic. This film, this lighting, it will hold up against any film. You can put this up against Private Ryan. You can put this up against, Dead Presidents. I think they had a war scene in theirs. You can put this up against any war film. and there's not much difference in quality. The detail we paid in lighting, and framing, and especially for dark skin, I think we did a really good job in capturing it. And every time I look at it, I'm like, wow, man, we did a thing there.
Yeah. I was going I was gonna say that about the lighting too, because this scene is, I mean, many of the scenes throughout the whole film, like the choices of colors. Sometimes they were happy mistakes. Sometimes it was very planned. Because I remember we sat in meetings where you had like pictures you pulled off the internet. It's like, okay, I want these colors and this color palette and that type of thing. When we were talking to production designers and stuff like that. But definitely with this one, it just the whole vibe of it, like these like greens and browns and orange and stuff, and then the lighting inside the tent is like this warm glow to it. Yeah.
Hung it on the inside, and then I asked Rob if he could make sure we had something looked like moonlight on the outside, because they shot inside and then they're half in and half out, and it needed to look like night. It needed to look like night light. So he said, "Yeah, I got you, man. I got you."
Yeah.
So again, shout out to Harold Crawford on the wardrobe, because he pulled this army stuff. He pulled it together. Vanessa Capella on the props, man. They were doing it. I think she found some really classic guns. She found those guns for us, and all those little details in the back, the canteens and stuff.
It
really give authenticity to them.
Such a big difference. And that's a shout out to you, man, because those are all your connects. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, listen, it was the right time. It was such a blessing how it all came together, man.
Wish I could find my way back.
Oh man, that is incredible.
Yeah,
the laughing at the end, is that captured live, or did you add that in?
That was
thinking of where that laughter.
That came from. That was in the camera, because there's. Okay. Yeah, that was from the camera. So I just kind of blended it in the mix at the end to give like that real feel. Yeah.
So this army scene was, to me, one of the most. It was the most challenging because we were outside, but it was the most rewarding because, man, it really felt like we were there.
Yeah. And everyone I know that watches it, they never have a sense of like that Memphis Shack scene being in a studio location, or any of it not being authentically like they're in Korea or they're in war somewhere. They're not in America. Yeah. They were in Ohio, y'all.
Yeah.
So the magic of film, you know what I mean? So yeah, Myron, thank you for this, man. This was great.
I really feel like this is a classic, man. I really feel like we're gonna be looking at this to years to come and be like, man, that's awesome. It's a piece of art.
There's nothing else like it, that's for sure. And we put all of our artistic minds together to make something really, really outstanding, I believe. So everybody out there, thank you for checking this out. Go and watch Hal King now. It's on Amazon Prime. Hope you all enjoy these. Go watch the next one, and then watch Hal King, and watch the next one, and watch Hal King again. Thank you all for being here. We'll holler at y'all later, all right? We out.